I try to have a lot of deeply practical podcasts and videos where we get into the nitty gritty and talk about music theory and how to actually utilize it in songs and meter. And we've talked about different lyrical concepts like how to use things like symbolism. But also, I think it's important to talk about sort of the mental side of things, because if you're not actually writing songs because there's people in your life that are discouraging you, or you've sort of set yourself up to fail, and therefore you're not writing songs at all, and you just kind of feel like crap because you're not writing songs, or you feel like you're capable of writing good songs, but you're not writing good songs, or maybe you think you're not capable of writing good songs, and you've allowed that to discourage you from actually writing songs. And really, I wanted to do a more casual video addressing that and really just being encouraging, because for a lot of people, you might not have people in your life that are encouraging for songwriting specifically, right? You may have people that are great in your life and are encouragers outside of songwriting, but maybe when it comes to songwriting, they're kind of like, yeah, whatever, that weird thing that you do, or that weird thing you think you could do. And, it's sad that it is this way sometimes, but sometimes even the people closest to us will be people that are overall not encouraging. Sometimes it's strangers that are more encouraging than the people around us, because sometimes the people around us are like, who do you think you are? And, a lot of people we're all fallen, not perfect people. So with that comes a lot of baggage sometimes. One email that I got recently was a woman that was like, hey, thanks for all the encouragement, and I'm starting to really believe that I can do this thing. But for years I thought I couldn't, or I was sort of discouraged away from doing it because my mother would always say, hey, shouldn't you learn to, I don't know, play the piano before you start to write songs with the piano? And, that may have been well-intentioned, but that's something that ultimately worked to discourage this person. Because, sure, there's maybe some underlying truth to that. If you want to learn to write songs, it probably makes sense to learn your instrument better. But the idea that you need to not even begin or have the audacity to try to write songs before you do X is just not true. Yeah, of course, it's ideal if the first song you write is after you're already a great pianist and you understand music theory and music composition and lyrics and you're a storyteller. Yeah, of course, that would be ideal. That'd be amazing. But you got to start from wherever you are. If you've decided today that you want to write songs, or you decided last week you want to write songs, or 2 years ago you want to write songs, and you don't know how to play an instrument, you don't know anything about music theory or storytelling or meter or rhyme, other lyric writing concepts, you start from where you are. That's great. There's no reason to tell yourself, oh, there's prerequisites to writing songs. If you want to write songs, do it. And there's always this natural tension that exists between it's good to want to write better and better songs and to want to be a better songwriter tomorrow than you are today, and 10 years from now than you are 1 year from now. That's a good thing. We should want to improve as songwriters. It would be bad if we just wrote songs and said, who cares? I don't want to improve at songwriting. I don't want to learn anything to become a better songwriter. I just want to write songs and be left alone. That is maybe not the best attitude to have. But the tension that we have is, yes, it's true that it's good to want to be better at songwriting and to get better at songwriting. But we also shouldn't over-obsess with how good we currently are at songwriting. It's good to want to be constantly pointed up and keep moving in a positive direction. That's good. But we don't want to be so obsessed with being a great songwriter that we forget that we have to become a great songwriter. We have to work at it. We're going to start as probably not a great songwriter. We probably start as not even a good songwriter. We probably start as not even an okay songwriter. And that's okay. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of a journey for anything. Nobody gets on a bike for a first time and they're immediately amazing. Nobody's first steps are sprinting and winning a marathon. You have to learn. There are baby steps here. It's the whole crawl, walk, run that I like to talk about. You got to learn to crawl before you can learn to walk, and you got to learn to walk before you can learn to run. Every human being who has ever existed went in this order, right? Babies don't just go straight from laying there helplessly to walking. That's not how it works, or certainly to running. So it's a good thing to want to get better as a songwriter, to write better songs, to obsess over, to some degree, writing better songs, right? That's a good thing. But we don't want that to come too in conflict with just being happy with where we are. because it would be tragic if you never became a great songwriter because you're too busy beating yourself up that your first song, your third song, your fifth song isn't really that great. It's actually a good thing that you're aware it's not that great. The worst, I think, is probably when people write a song that is really kind of like, ugh, but they think it's great, which usually comes from the camp that thinks, oh, there's no objectivity in art at all. So even though I wrote this thing that is ridiculous and not good at all, I think it's good. Well, if you think everything is good, then you have no reason to get better, because better doesn't exist if everything's good. It's the whole, if everyone's special, no one is logic, where if every song is great, then no song is great, and therefore there's no reason to try to write better songs. Those people are probably the most in trouble because they probably will be just as good a songwriter in 50 years as they are today. So it's actually a good thing. It comes from a good place. If you can look at your own song and be like, I cringe at this part, I wish this part was better, I'm not super happy with how this turned out, I think that's a good sign. But we don't want to take that so far that we sort of get to the point where we don't believe in ourselves at all to write songs, where we think, oh, I should just quit songwriting. Everybody else is more talented than me. Everybody else is better than me. And sometimes this comes too from you compare yourself today to your favorite artist, which is like, well, that's maybe unfair. That's your favorite artist. Hopefully they are better than you, right? You should expect that. That's like looking at Bach and being like, oh, I'm not as good as Bach, so I might as well quit making music. Like, if people said that, then we wouldn't have any music since Bach, right? So that's not this too far. And there is always going to be this tension, right? Which is you got to write where you are. And to some degree, you have to be happy where you are. You can't be miserable for the first 10 years of writing songs until you're finally good enough for yourself. But it's also good to care about the quality of your music and to want to get better. That, of course, is a good thing. So we have to allow those two things to live in tension. There's a lot of hard elements to that, but I think the key is don't worry so much about how good you are. Worry about the direction that your quality is pointed. Are you somebody that cares about writing quality? Are you somebody that does keep learning and getting better? You try to get outside of your sort of box where maybe you always write with the guitar and you're like, hey, I'm a piano player too. Maybe I should write some songs with the piano. Great. That's getting outside of the box. That's challenging yourself. Maybe you should write songs not by starting a chord progression. That's challenging yourself if you've always written your songs with a chord progression first. If you are willing to learn music theory, right? You're willing to be like, okay, I understand how learning some music theory concepts absolutely will help me in writing, and I therefore want to learn that. If those things are all the case, then you're on the right track. So worry less about how good you actually are now, because you're going to get there. You're going to get there. And don't let anybody talk you down. Don't let anybody, including yourself, by the way, tell you that you can't do it. Because also, we should all be pointed up. We should want to become better songwriters. But is the only reason that you write songs just to be good at it? It's perfectly natural to some degree to like something or not based on how good you are at that thing. And certainly it makes sense too, where if you're super talented and naturally gifted at painting and you're not naturally gifted at songwriting, I don't know, maybe it does make sense to emphasize painting more in your life and songwriting less. But we don't want to get so over-obsessed with this. We don't want to let people get into our heads. And by the way, this is something I mentioned before, but I want to mention this here. This may be the first video you've ever seen from me. Something I think is really important is a common thread that you see through all of history is the people least impressed by people's talent or ability are always the people closest to them. And it's not because the people closest to you are jerks. It's just that, let's say you're married. Your wife, your husband is always going to think, oh, they're just my wife and husband. And that's mostly a good thing. Right? The fact that they would be unimpressed if you became, I don't know, president, or if you became the greatest songwriter of all time is somewhat a good thing. It keeps you grounded. But also people close to you are somewhat unable to sort of get past the, oh, that's just Sean. That's just Sarah. So even if you are writing things that are great, to a degree, I think everybody has this preconceived notion in their heads that all the brilliant people out there are people they don't know personally. It never could be that they personally know somebody that's actually really good at songwriting. People usually don't even consider that. We have to sort of actively tell ourselves, hey, it's possible that somebody I'm friends with is really talented or really good at a thing. Certainly just because I'm friends with somebody doesn't mean, oh, they could never make it to the NFL. Like, I don't know. I don't know. If I know somebody that's in high school and they seem really talented, or in college really talented, for me to say like, oh, there's no way they could make the NFL because I know them, is dumb. That's not how it works. The probability, of course, is low. But anyway, my point is that sometimes unintentionally, the people closest to you, even without saying anything bad, can be discouraging, and that it feels like even when you're improving and you feel like, man, this song's really good, a lot of times people can't see past that, oh, well, you're just Sean, you're just Sarah. And sometimes that can be something that also is discouraging. But it's not going to be discouraging if you worry less about how good you may or may not be, and you just work on getting better. And you just say, you know what, songwriting is important to me. I want to become a better songwriter because I want to give my songs, do my songs justice. And I want to, have an impact on people via my music. So I care about quality. That's a good thing. But don't care so much about quality that you allow what people say or what you say inside your own heart to discourage you away from songwriting. Keep songwriting. You absolutely can do it. Don't worry about the people around you that maybe intimidate you, make you feel like you're so much lesser. Stop worrying about all that as much as you possibly can, and just focus on being better a year from now than you are today. That's a good thing. But don't be too obsessive about how good you may or may not be today. And if you want some help with kickstarting some inspiration, be sure to check out my free guide talking about 20 different ways to start writing a song. Sometimes the reason people get into ruts, or they start to write songs that are like, feels the same and I'm not really proud of them anymore, is because they insist on writing songs in the same way over and over that might not even be the ideal way to write a song for them. Most common is people just default to, I write a chord progression first, then I write a melody, and then I write my lyrics, which, by the way, is the easiest way to write a song, especially at the beginning of your songwriting journey, but I don't think it's the best way to write a song, and it certainly shouldn't be the only way we write a song. And a lot of times the way a song goes is largely defined by how it starts. So if you want 20 different ways to start writing a song, be sure to check out this free guide. It talks about all sorts of different ways to start a song from a lyrical standpoint and from a musical standpoint. So maybe you're interested in starting with lyrics first. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. And maybe you're interested in starting with something besides a chord progression, maybe a musical hook or something else. Be sure to check it out, songwritertheory.com/free guide. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. And make sure you don't give up on songwriting. And most particularly, don't give up on yourself songwriting. I'll talk to you in the next one.